Hi, friends and family. It's Victor Costa. Peace, love, and muscles. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're having an outstanding day. What should we talk about? Why don't we talk about peak? Not this peak or this peak. Let's talk about peak. Meaning, people always say to me, "Hey, Vic, I was at my peak, and then everything fell apart. I can't remember what happened, but I was at the peak of performance. I was at my peak physical condition. I was at my peak physical specimenhood, and suddenly everything fell apart." Now, what I've noticed, guys, and I just want you to know this from common sense, but also from my own personal journey too, is that that's when things tend to fall apart, right? When you're at your peak. Now, a lot of times what we mean by peak is we've pushed ourselves into a realm that is unsustainable. I watch a lot of those mountain climbing movies that actually I don't know if you guys have seen some of them, but Jimmy Chin is an amazing climber, photographer. He did the Free Solo movie and everything, and I kind of watch everything that Jimmy Chin does. And what I've learned from watching the mountain climbing movies is the guys start out at a certain altitude and then they go to the Himalayas and they acclimate themselves and they stay there for a long period of time. And then they go to various sites and camps on the way up and they let their body acclimate. And there's a zone called the death zone that is the last and final push to the summit or the peak of something. Now, you can only sustain yourself for a very, very short period of time in this death zone. So when you're making your push to the summit, you have to do it swiftly and you have to get to the top and you have to come back down. And that's how it has to go because you can't sustain the peak for very long. And that's what I'm trying to get to, that the body sometimes at its peak is most delicate and most vulnerable. And that's when you've pushed yourself a little bit too far or when the immune system is compromised. So it's like we would love to stay at the top of Mount Everest, but we can't stay there because we've got to come down. And once we get there, the climb is so strenuous that we become extremely vulnerable when we are at the peak. And so mountain climbers know this and they plan for this. But it's something that we generally don't plan for. We push ourselves super hard with a diet. We push ourselves super hard with our training regimen. We push ourselves super hard with doing a full day of school or work and then trying to go to the gym and staying up late at night and doing all of it and trying to be Superman or Superwoman for your family, for your friends, all that stuff, and for yourself. And that's when things usually fall apart. So maybe there is something to staying at like one of the lower base camps and building rather than continuously pushing for the summit. And I'm not talking about in business where you know that you have to go for it at certain points or certain times where you have to, an audition or something like that where you just have to go for that, right? That's the peak. But what I'm talking about is not trying to necessarily remain at the peak of physical condition because once you're at the peak, you're the most vulnerable, right? So one of the lower base camps, hanging out there, working on your craft, developing your body so that we can ultimately come to the top of the mountain and that will become the new plateau. That will be the new base camp. But once you try to make your summit too quickly, you become very vulnerable. So what I want to say to you guys is don't try to get to the lowest body fat possible because that will only be sustainable for a very short period of time. I'm not talking about contest preparation. I'm talking about in general, right? I'm just talking about in general. You can only push your body so far before it pushes back. So I want to remind you guys of that. And it's always the story that somebody was at the height and that's when they fell, right? You never hear somebody saying, well, I was kind of doing mediocre and then I kind of fell back. No, they were doing great and then they fell back. That's usually the term. I was doing awesome. I was at my peak. I was at the top. And that's when I fell apart. That's because it was not sustainable and you didn't have the fundamentals under you. You didn't have the rope. You didn't have the base camp. You didn't have everything structured and laid out so that you could stay there, feel comfortable. Wouldn't it be great to just build a higher and higher base camp by not necessarily pushing too hard too fast, but sort of planning things out as we go. So there's something to be said for not necessarily dancing around at the top of the peak all the time, right? So I wanted to share that with you guys. It was just something that I was training the other day. It came to my mind. It popped up. And I wanted to just say it because that's how it is with contests. You can't remain at the contest level of show every minute of the day. Yes, I stay at a certain condition because I've stayed there for so long. This has become my new base camp. So I don't want you to try to like get down to 20 pounds. If you have to lose 20 pounds, I always say this, 2 pounds, 3 pounds, 4 pounds, 5 pounds, and so on is on the way down, right? So you go a little bit, you hang out, you see how you feel, you see how you look, and then you make your moves little by little by little. And that will be sustainable. That will be something that you can continue to build on rather than go for that summit too quickly without really having the fundamentals. So, guys, I wish you all the best in good health. Please take care of yourselves. Peace, love, and muscles. Hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, ding the little bell so that you can see videos from me as they pop up. And as always, please keep the comments coming. Follow me at Vicsnatural on Instagram and Facebook. Take care of yourselves. Love you all. Bye-bye. Flex.